Hello there, interwebs. I am the Bechtloff, and this is, of course, my podcast. And much like the past couple weeks, this podcast is mostly going to be about the whole Gamergate thing because it's frankly the biggest story in geekdom right now. And I am, of course, a geek. So sorry if you're getting bored with it, but I sure as hell am not. First, though, I want to talk about something a little more, I guess, substantive. But I live in Amish country, PA. Live in Lancaster County, PA. And I fucking hate the Amish. I really do. I fucking hate them. And some of you, oh, how can you hate the Amish? You're really saying, yeah, I'm saying I fucking hate the Amish. Fuck the Amish. Seriously, fuck those guys. They're smelly, weird, and annoying. If that's not sufficient reason to dislike a group of people. And I more than the Amish, I hate the tourists that come here. I fucking hate the tourists. If you come to Lancaster County, as a tourist, like that's how you want to spend your vacation, and you don't have like family or something here you're visiting, you are fucking mentally ill. All right, you shouldn't be allowed to drive or vote or I wouldn't trust you with scissors. You are fucked up in the head. And it's mostly New Yorkers, too, which boggles my mind. I mean, you have New York City, which is like practically the capital of the world, alright? You can find anything to entertain yourself at any hour of any day at New York City. And if you want to get away from it all, I mean, upstate New York is some of the most beautiful areas in the country, certainly in the eastern seaboard. And you want to come down to Lancaster County and stare at fucking cornfields? Stare at these fucking Amishmen, these dirty savages? Watch two pigs fucking a field? What the hell is wrong with you? Only thing worse than having to get around an Amish buggy, as I'm trying to get somewhere here, is having to go around an Amish buggy and a fucking minivan from New York who won't go around it because they're so fucking fascinated by it. The Amish are ridiculous. And yeah, I'm shitting on the Amish. Some people are like, oh, they're so quaint. No, they're not fucking quaint. If dressing funny and having backwards ideas is quaint, then you must think the Ku Klux Klan is quaint. Because they meet that criteria, don't they? No, they're fucking savages. They're not even good farmers, by the way. They're not even good farmers. They're pretty decent carpenters. Good credit where credit's due. But they are shit farmers. The yield per acreage is awful. Even for these kind of small family farms. Oh, and by the way, and I'll be getting to this more, this is why the Amish genuinely piss me off. In PA, we have some basic environmental laws regarding farms, runoff, and that sort of shit. And even though I'm a libertarian, I'm very much for basic environmental regulation. The environment is by nature communal. The waterways, the airways, they are inescapably communal. You have to have basic quote-unquote rules of the road when it comes to those. And all this runoff, it fucks up the Chesapeake Bay down in Maryland, that sort of shit. Some basic rules. Like, I'm pretty sure there's one rule where you have to, like, fence off a stream if it's running through, like, a cow pasture. Like, the cows aren't allowed to actually be in a stream. They put a little bridge and they're supposed to drink from it from there, but they're not allowed to actually be in a stream. Obviously, because they're shitting and pissing directly into the waterways. And it's not good for the cows either to be drinking their own bath and toilet water. But Amish just ignore that law, as they do most environmental laws. And by the way, I don't have the law in front of me. I don't know exactly how it says, but I'm pretty sure that's the wording. Someone could correct me if they know the fucking wording of the law. But somehow, whether either they're given a loophole or whether people just don't enforce it with them, the Amish just get around that law. Same with things like puppy mills. Like, there's certain regulations regarding, like, breeding dogs and selling dogs. And the Amish completely fucking ignore them. You buy a dog from an Amishman, you'll be lucky if it's not all fucked up in the head because they weaned it too soon off the mother or it's not got health problems or something. Amish run the puppy mills in here, which is ironic because in this area, every other damn car you see has, like, no puppy mills bumper sticker, which I agree with. I fucking love dogs. Angers me to no end when someone mistreats a dog. But no one wants to bring up that it's the Amish doing it. Like, they'll focus on one, like, fucking redneck up in Lebanon County, that's doing it. But we won't talk about all the Amish farms that are doing it. The Amish have like this fucking cultural shaft shield in this area. It's insane. They can get away with all sorts of bullshit. And here's my biggest problem with the Amish. I mean, their beliefs are insane. Their beliefs are fucking insane. By the way, I always find it fascinating that Amish people will pay people to drive them around in some of the businesses they do, but they won't drive a car themselves. Just on a philosophical level, if it's wrong to drive a car, how is it okay to pay someone to drive a car? I mean, that'd be like saying it's wrong to murder somebody who's fine to hire a hitman. But getting back to my main beef with them. My main beef is the fucking buggies. Because here's the deal. I'm a hardcore libertarian. If you want to shun technology and hygiene because you think that impresses a god that is no doubt laughing at your dumb ass, then that's your fucking life. You go ahead and waste it as you see fit. But when you bring your shenanigans onto the public road, then it becomes my business. There's so many problems with it. First of all, there's horse shit. The horse just shits all over the road. They don't have like a basket or something below it to catch it like they do with, like, say, the horse carriage rides in like Central Park in New York. They don't have none of that shit. Horse just shits right on the road. Meanwhile, if I walked my little 20-pound dog and he laid a little 5-ounce turd on the road, I could be fined $100 for not picking it up. So yeah, horse shits all over the road. I couldn't throw a fucking apple out my car window without probably getting into trouble for littering. But this is fine, because it's, because Amish are so quaint. Also, half the time I see like fucking 10-year-old boys behind the reins and shit. They have no control over. Let me put it this way: when I get on the public road, I have to, at my expense and on my time, I have to initially prove to a government employee that I can safely operate the vehicle to get myself a license. I have to have the vehicle inspected for safety and emissions, for cleanliness, which gets back to the horseshit thing, I guess. I have to have the vehicle insured. And I have to pay $36 to put a little piece of tin on the back of it we call a license plate. I have to do all that at my expense and my time. Fair enough. That's the price of using the public road. Amish don't have to do any of that shit. They just throw a fucking orange triangle on the back of it. It's both a nuisance and a hazard to have these things on the road to begin with. But if it was at least licensed and inspected and had to put a license plate on the back of it, it would at least be somewhat reasonable. It would at least be fucking fair. Here's the other thing about it that pisses me off. The roads are primarily sustained through the gas tax, at least in my state, and I assume in many other states. Now that's an iffy issue because, let's face facts, governments are constantly robbing Paul to pay Peter, so it's hard to say that this particular tax goes to this money because I suspect it all damn near ends up in the same pot. But at least in theory, the gas tax it supports the road. Amishmen obviously don't pay that tax for obvious reasons. Horse don't fucking drink gasoline, does he? But the problem with that is the horseshoes and steel wheels of the Amish buggy fuck the road up to no end. To no end. And mind you, if I was to leave my snow tires on past like fucking April, I could get a fine for fucking up the road. Hey, fair enough. But we're gonna let this shit on the road? Fucking it all up? People who don't pay the taxes to support the roads, I might add. So that's my biggest beef with the fucking Amish. We live in this fucking nanny state culture where, you're told you can't have a fucking large soda in some areas. If I was smoking a joint in the privacy of my own home, I'd be a fucking menace to society. But this shit on the public roads is acceptable. And man, I feel fucking bad for the horse too. The poor horse. A lot of times they're freaking out and shit. Because I guess even the horse has the good sense to know he doesn't belong on the road. Truly, an Amishman doesn't have the good sense that God Almighty gave a fucking horse. So yeah, I fucking hate the Amish, and that's why. I think their beliefs are idiotic and backwards. But more to the point, quit fucking up my roads. Quit fucking up my roads. You're not paying the taxes for it. Quit fucking them up. You filthy, smelly savage. Alright, that little bit out of the way. Let's talk some Gamergate. And by the way, I love that it's called Gamergate now, not Queengate or anything. Because it's not about Zoe Quinn. even when we're talking about Zoe Quinn, it's not about Zoe Quinn. But that being said, let's talk about Zoe Quinn for a second. Specifically, I want to talk about Depression Quest for a second, because this is just something that occurred to me this week. I watched a Let's Play of Depression Quest. Most of it. I had a hard time getting. And the guy doing it was funny, but it wasn't his fault. It was a depressing quest. But Depression Quest isn't a video game. I want to just say this, and I know this whole thing isn't about Zoe Quinn that much anymore, but it's on my mind. I want to get it off my chest. Depression Quest is not a video game by any metric I can imagine. Now, I'm not saying that just because it's shit. It is shit, but that's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it doesn't meet the standard of the very fucking medium of video games. It doesn't. For those of you who don't know what Depression Quest is a text-based game about having depression. And basically what it is you read a couple paragraphs worth of quote-unquote story, and then you're given 2 different or 3 different options on what to do next. You click on one of them, and it's basically one of those old choose-your-own-adventure books, which I don't know if you ever had those as a kid. I had a couple. I had a couple based on like Mario Brothers, which were kind of fun. But then I'm a big Nintendo nerd. I think the one I really remember is I had like a one with Luigi, and he had to find where Mario was missing, but it wasn't based on that shitty game Mario was missing. It was I forget. The cover had like Luigi running from a bunch of boo ghosts that were like coming out of a volcano for some reason. And I don't know. Not important. Point is, the format of these books, if you're not familiar, is you're reading a couple pages of story, and then it's like, should Luigi go into the castle or should Luigi go into the ghost house? Turn to page 60 if he goes into the castle, or turn to page 70 if he... And that's how those books are laid out. And more often than not, one of the choices... Well, there's only one correct path, more often than not, to get to an actual happy ending. But some of them, I assume, would have different versions of happy endings. Whatever. Not the point. That's the format of a choose-your-own-adventure book, and that's all this is. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book someone put online. I don't see how that's a video game. It's interactive, but I don't see how that's a video game. I really don't. I mean, if you're going to call that a video game, wouldn't you have to call like a book on Kindle a movie? Because it's on a screen? It's not a video game. So that begs the question, why did it end up on Steam? Well, it ended up on Steam because, somebody said it sucked, and Zoe Quinn cried harassment, and a bunch of white knights came to arrest you, and I guess upvoted it or some shit. And I don't know, maybe she had to suck someone's dick to get it initially on Steam in the first place. Who the hell knows? It ended up on Steam for all the reasons, every fucking reason other than why something should actually end up on Steam. But yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's not a video game. It's not. And I know this isn't about Zoe Quinn anymore, and I almost hesitate to talk about the fucking hoe bag. But yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. So moving on to broader Gamergate issues. I don't know if any of you have watched Jim Sterling. Some of you maybe have. In the past, Jimquisition is his show's name. It's over on The Escapist. I've liked this show for a while. I discovered it a few months ago. Maybe like 6 months ago, tops. I don't know. But I discovered it a few months ago, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I binged on a lot of the old episodes. What I really liked about it was Jim was one of the few guys out there really, really fighting the corruption in the gaming industry. Primarily, he's talking about all the ways that, gamers get ripped off, DLC, what have you, DRM issues and all that kind of crap. But he also would touch on how some of the reviewers were bought and paid for, or at least it seemed like they were bought and paid for, guys over at IGN or whatever. And he even talked about Steam and the problems it was having. He talked about problems with indie game developers, how they can't take criticism very well. And he talked about how Steam was being overrun with garbage. To the point where it run the risk of not making it worth going to anymore. There wasn't enough quality control at Steam. So, I thought for sure when this Gamergate was starting to really break, I thought, man, what's Jimquisition going to do? That was my first thought. What's Jim here going to do? What's Jim Sterling going to do? Not my first thought, but one of my early thoughts. Because, again, he's fought so hard against corruption, the very thing that this whole scandal is about. But he's also a bit of an SJW. And I say a bit. He's reasonably moderate compared to a lot of these people. But, like, I'll give you a good example. He's often taken the position that he doesn't agree with Anita Sarkeesian on a lot of issues, but he doesn't think it's right that people are trying to silence her, and that, she has a right to make her videos. Nobody was fucking saying she didn't have a right to make her videos. People were mad that she was silencing any criticism. People were mad that nobody could voice their criticism without getting shut down, blocked. That's what it was. People were mad that Anita Sarkeesian was having a dialogue on pop culture that, involved her running her mouth while everyone else had duct tape forced on theirs. That's what people were. Nobody wanted to silence. Yeah, sure, she had some fucking trolls. And I'm sure there's people who wish she was dead. Anybody who voices an opinion anywhere on the fucking internet is going to have people who wish they were dead. Alright? You failed in that regard, Jim. And you really failed on this one. Because his response video to this whole thing, when he finally got one out, was whining about how some people called him an SJW. And, people are just using that term, throwing it around to silence people. Fuck you, Jim. First of all, we're not the ones silencing anybody. Alright? We're not the ones who are censor-happy, block-happy fucking bullies, alright? We're not the ones who banish people from the Cool Kids Club because they dare to question the fucking SJW narrative. No, that's not us. That's not the Gamergate people. Alright, that's been you guys running these sites. And how fucking dare you, Jim? How fucking dare you avoid the real issue? The real issue is exactly what the hell you're supposedly talk about all the time. Corruption. And just, it's exactly the issues you focus on. Hell, the mere fact that Depression Quest is on Steam falls right into the category of what you were talking about, how Steam has garbage on it that has no business being on Steam. This is exactly what you want to get mad at fucking EA and IGN and all that bullshit for Dorito Gate, and you don't want to get mad about this shit? No, Jim, you fucking failed in this regard. Damn it. I didn't even watch this whole video, by the way. If anyone did, I guess you can feel free to correct me if he really kind of redeems it at the end. I couldn't get through it. I was so disappointed. I couldn't get through it. Couldn't do it. I'm like, come on, Jim. Come on. I was embarrassed for you, Jim. It was painful to listen to you. Completely missed the point. Arguably on purpose, missed the point. People are mean. Fuck you, Jim. Come on, man. Come on, you're smarter than that. I felt the same sort of fucking disappointment on Ego Raptor here a couple weeks ago, when his response to the whole Gamergate thing was, you shouldn't harass people. No one was fucking, well, okay, I'm sure some people were harassing Joe Quinn, but big fucking deal. She harassed other people too. Well, if we're going to get up on a moral high horse about shit. But no, that's not what this was about. Criticizing someone about their corrupt and vile behavior is not fucking harassment. Damn it, Aaron, Ego Raptor. You're better than that. At least I thought you were. That's kind of been the hardest part for me. I mean, I expect, movie slob Chipman to hop on to the anti-Gamergate thing. Alright, fine. I expect, Anita Skumskeezian is obviously going to be on it. I expect that fucking twat Lindsay Ellis to be on it. I expect people like that to be on it. But damn it, some of these people I fucking respect it. I respect it, Jim Sterling. And I have a harder time doing it now. I respected Spoonie, and apparently, well, I don't know. I almost don't want to shit too hard on Spoonie. The guy is probably mentally ill. I'm not even being disparaging. The guy has issues. Spoonie's on a real fucking depression quest, in my opinion. But, Spoonie shouldn't have been taken. He should have been taking the gamer side. I don't want to say I'm disappointed in him, because that would have implied higher expectations. But still, Spoonie, that was bad, and you should feel bad. But these guys, hang on. Sorry, having some Pepsi. As I found out last night on Internet Aristocrats live stream, I'm a total Pepsi sexual. But yeah, I was disappointed in how a lot of these people handled it. Just completely missing the point, almost purposely missing the point. But who knows? Maybe that's because their fucking parent company or whatever is run by Silverstream Media, which we all know is the kind of center of this fucking web of corruption. I mean, who knows? I'm amazed at how corporate these seemingly indie internet personalities really are. It is amazing. But they're only making themselves irrelevant. They're only hurting themselves. Much as I'm disappointed in them, they really truly are only hurting themselves. And that kind of brings me to another aspect of Gamergate I want to talk about. An interesting little article I read. A buddy of mine had a guest post over on Matt Forney's blog. What the hell's the name of it? Name of the article by Mr. William Rome here is, again, over on Matt Forney's thing, and I'll link to it probably. The Slut That Broke the Geek's Back. And it's about the Zoe Quinn scandal, kind of. But as with everything about this, even when you're talking about Zoe Quinn, you're not really talking about Zoe Quinn, because Zoe Quinn's not worth talking about. You're just using her as an example for the broader points. Basically, the article is talking about that geekdom's biggest problem is that it got too popular. That's essentially the meat of the article. I think I'm summing this up fair. He uses examples from punk music and wrestling and all as example. And I never was a huge wrestling fan. I actually think most punk music sounds like shit. So I can't really comment on the substance of those articles. Being not really in either scene. But he comes back to geekdom and says, oh, well, it got too popular here in the last 10 years. He points to, the Big Bang Theory as being what really made it popular. I'm not sure if that's true. I think maybe that was kind of I don't know. I think it was a little popular before that. But he points to that as when it kind of jumped the shark. And I have very mixed feelings about the Big Bang Theory as a show. There's times I think it's absolutely brilliant. There's times I think it's garbage. I actually hated it for the longest time because I watched the pilot when it first came on and just thought it was absolute garbage. I'm like, this is just... None of these geek characters are likable I get that, yeah, okay, geeks are kind of socially awkward and all, but this was just... The first episode is just unbearable to me. Most of the first season is crap, in my opinion. But I think it picked up. I think it has a lot of interesting characters. I don't want to analyze the show too much because that wasn't really his point. But like I said, I have very mixed feelings about the show. I think it's at times very brilliant, at times absolute garbage. But he claims that, okay, so it's geekdom got too popular. And when the masses came in, the masses are infected with all this PC bullshit. So, of course, the social justice warriors, being the foot soldiers of the PC movement, are going to come in. And that's basically the meat of it. I hope I'm summarizing it fairly. Again, you can read the article yourself. It's a pretty solid article. And I think he's half right. I think he has a serious point that anytime a subculture becomes popular, there's certain risks that come with that. He talked about, punk lost its soul as soon as it became popular, and maybe that's true. I often thought maybe the whole point of punk was just to be contrarian, but I don't think geek culture, the whole point of it is to be contrarian. I think it was contrarian because it was unpopular, but I don't think that was the point of it. It's not like I got into comic books because I was unpopular and I was forced into it. I got into comic books because I thought they were fucking cool. I was never hugely popular, but I was never the complete fucking outcast. Um, I always had, a core group of friends, and most people I was friendly with. I really didn't catch too much bullying in my high school years. But yeah, I don't think the point of geek culture was to be contrarian, was to be against the norm. Um, so I don't think it's inherently bad that when geek culture becomes popular. Um, I the Avengers, for example. I'm a big Avengers fan, and I've been a big Avengers fan since the idea of an Avengers movie seemed like a pipe dream. Um, I became a really big Avengers fan in '98 with the start of the Volume 3 run George Perez and Kurt Busiek did, and which is a fantastic run if you're looking to read some solid Avengers. That's where you start. Number 1, Volume 3. Um, yeah, I became a big Avengers fan then, and what I liked about the Avengers is I liked the diversity element to it. And when I say diversity, I almost hesitate to use that word because of how it's been mangled by SJW faggots, but I mean it in the truest, most noble sense. The Avengers were a group of heroes, regardless of the lineup, and the lineup has always obviously changed over and over and over again over the years. But it's a group of very diverse heroes who form a brotherhood based on the common mission, but come from such various different backgrounds. They have wide ranges of personalities, of abilities, and yet they come together and gel as a team, and there's something beautiful, even inspiring in that to me. So, in comes this movie. And I really like the lead-in movies to it. Iron Man 2 being the weakest one, and everyone knows the studio problems that happened with Iron Man 2. But even that one I thought was entertaining enough. But I really like those movies, and then comes Avengers, and it was fucking huge. And next thing I know, people are reading a lot of Avengers books. My comic store right now, the little one I run on Saturdays. I've known people who've gotten into comic books through these movies, and that's really cool. I fucking love that. But see, the problem with I love the fact that more people are getting into these things. I love the fact that more people are getting into old retro style games. But the problem with that is, yes, it does bring the parasites. It's not that the masses getting into it is inherently bad. It's that something follows them that is inherently bad. In some regards, you have the speculators. Anytime there's a collecting element to a subculture, they'll come in trying to make a buck. Comic books and retro games have that, obviously, and I've talked about that numerous times on this podcast. But you also get the people that come in and they want it for the social status. They want to just force their bullshit ideologies on it. And by the way, it's interesting that you didn't really get this with the religious right. You didn't really get the religious right ever coming into one of these subcultures and trying to change it. They always attacked it openly from the outside. You got to give them credit on that. They at least fought with honor. Whereas these social justice warriors come in pretending like they were always a part of it, but now it's time to change it for some reason. That drives me up the fucking wall. I can't stand that. I mean, obviously Anita Sarkeesian isn't a gamer. I have real suspicions about a lot of these other fucking hobags and white knights that come in here and whether, well, I'm an X-Men fan. Why are you an X-Men fan? I used to watch a cartoon in the 90s. Oh, yeah, okay, go fuck yourself. I mean, I saw a little bit of that over there. I remember, I hate the fake geek that doesn't want to admit they're new to it. You know what I mean? I was always down with this. I fucking remember somebody, a friend of my girlfriend at the time liked the Daredevil movie a lot, which, by the way, I think is very underrated. It's not a great movie by any stretch, but it has a lot of good elements to it. I think it's pretty solid. But anyways, she liked it a lot, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a big Daredevil fan." I'm like, "No, you're not. You saw the movie, and then you read like one fucking trade at Barnes & Noble. Fuck you. I've forgotten more about Daredevil than you'll know." And Daredevil wasn't even the biggest Marvel thing I'm into. Certainly not back then. Go suck a dick. So yeah, I get a little tired of that shit. And yeah, you get the social justice warrior coming here. And they want to force their shit on everybody. But where I think he fails, where I think this article fails, is it's a little too fatalistic. It's certainly a problem that geek culture faces, but I don't think it'll doom geek culture for two reasons. And it's different than punk for two reasons. Number one, punk music, the whole heart and soul of it was to be contrarian. Forgive me, I'm not an expert on punk. Maybe I'm missing some sort of point here, but I don't see how it had much of a point beyond that. So yeah, once it becomes popular, it loses its point. Wrestling, again, forgive me, I'm not a fan. I don't mean to disparage anybody, but it seems like a wide number of the wrestling fans were fucking idiots. I'm sorry. Forgive me, I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but it seems like there's a number of idiots in the wrestling fandom. So maybe unlike geek culture, they're not going to be able to recognize the problem and deal with it in time. Geek culture just might, and I think they're doing it right now. The name of his article was "The Slut That Broke Geek's Back," and I got to take issue right there with the name of it. And I almost hesitate to do that because I realize that a name of an article is by nature going to be a little hyperbole in it. I've done that on articles I've written, and it's very annoying when people focus too much on the name and not on the substance of the article. I've had that happen in particular with an article I wrote a couple months ago, which I'm not going to get into right now, but it's annoying when people are focusing too much on the title and not on the actual meat of the article. But I do want to focus on the title a little bit here because I don't think this broke geeks back. I think this woke geekdom up. I think now we recognize the problem. We recognize the invaders within our borders. And we're right now in the middle of purging them. That's the difference. We're going to get rid of them. And I don't want to get rid of people that are here for the right reason. Let me use a religious analogy, my being a Christian and all. There's plenty of times in the Bible when Jesus is giving, a big spiel and he's drawing a crowd, but then he very purposely says some shit that chases a lot of the crowd away. And that's because he wants as many people to be there, to be following him as possible, but he wants them there for the right reasons. And that's what geekdom got to take a page from the old Lord and Savior there, and realize that we want as many people involved in this as we can. I want as many people playing really old cool video games. I want as many people to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles as possible, because I think it's probably the greatest game on the Sega Genesis, the greatest Sonic game ever, easy. It's probably my favorite video game. I want as many people to play that and see why it's cool as possible. I want as many people to be reading superhero comics and see what is so awesome and cool about this genre. I want as many people there, but I want them there for the right reason. I don't ever want to turn it away anybody unless they're there to come in and destroy, like these social justice warriors are. Then you need to get the fuck out. And I think geekdom is going to do that in the next few. I think we're already doing that. These social justice warriors, and I've said this in the past couple podcasts, I'll say it again, they're scared. They're running scared. You go look at Movie Bob's Twitter, you go look at Femme Frequency, you go look at all these people, they are running scared. I don't think Lindsay Ellis is going to be doing the whole internet thing much longer, to be honest. Now, to be fair, I've predicted that in the past, but I don't think she ever had I don't think she ever had it in her to do this. Her skin is too thin. It's that simple. Lindsay Ellis, I almost feel bad for in this regard, because someone like Femme Frequency, she's just a scammer. She's just in it for the ducats. Lindsay Ellis, I think, might actually be a true believer. I think Lindsay Ellis, God help her pathetic little soul, actually does get triggered and shit like that by the stuff people say online, or even in rather innocuous shit. I think she just can't handle it. I saw tweets from her a few days ago about, like, I haven't been on the interwebs much. I just can't handle all this, stuff like that. It's just too much, and I don't think she has it in her to do this shit. I think she'd be better off. She can't roll with the big dogs. I think she'd be better off getting out of this. You want to criticize things for a living, but you can't take criticism. You should probably find another way to make a living. I mean, I don't know how much your fucking film degree or women's studies degree or whatever the horse shit you got is really going to do for you, but I almost feel bad for that girl. And I say almost because she is a piece of shit. But yeah, they're all running scared. And they're going to be purged out of this subculture, because this subculture's had enough of their fucking bullying. So yeah, I think geekdom is gonna make it's gonna fix it. I have high hopes. I'm more optimistic by the day watching this unfold. All right. So as always, I like to end the podcast on a lighter note, a more positive note, and this is kind of positive and negative because I got 2 games here this past week that I played a little bit. I got Super Mario Deluxe first of all on the Game Boy Color. Been going through some Game Boys, and I'll probably have a written review of this soon. But simply put, do not buy this piece of shit. Super Mario Deluxe is a port of Super Mario 1, Super Mario Bros. 1, but it's on the Game Boy Color, obviously. And there's been a little bit of advancements, like obviously you can save what level you're on. I never got to this point, but I saw in a review of it that there's like a racing game you can play where you race it through a level against a boo. There's what the hell was the other thing? Something else I never got to in it. I don't know, there's some extra shit. It's obviously not just Super Mario 1. But it has one fatal flaw that I found it virtually unplayable. It doesn't give you the full screen of whatever level you're on. I guess to avoid too much screen crunch on the small Game Boy screen, it like chops off part of the top, the sides, and I guess the bottom. And you can view by looking up and all. You can view what's above you, but it's harder to see what's ahead of you and all. It actually tricked me the first time because like I was moving forward and then I kind of went back and I noticed I could actually go back a little bit, but then it stopped, and that's because I could go back to the end of the actual screen. It wouldn't let me backtrack because Super Mario 1 doesn't let you do that. But chopping off parts of the screen like that, whoever owned this before me, by the way, I bought it off Amazon, had actually beaten the game and gotten to the point, and several levels in, of if you beat the game, you can then play it on hard mode, where all the Goombas are Buzzy Beetles, and I guess they move faster and shit. I can't even begin to imagine how this motherfucker beat it like this. I found it virtually unplayable. I mean, unless you play Super Mario 1 enough that you have the damn thing almost nearly memorized, I'm constantly getting ambushed by shit because I can't see it ahead of me. So yeah, I would say don't get this. Oh, I also did hear it has the Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2, which is it's called on there Super Mario for Super Players. I don't think that's unlocked on the cartridge I have, and I'm certainly never going to unlock it. I don't even know what you have to do to unlock it, but I'm barely going to play the fucker again. I'm probably just going to sell it. So I've heard that's on there. I don't know if that's, if that means anything to you, if you were thinking of getting it, but just for full disclosure, there it is, for whatever that's worth. By the way, Super Mario 2 sucks. The Japanese version, it really does. I've played it on the Super Mario All-Stars cart on the Super Nintendo. It has it on there under the Lost Levels. It's basically like Super Mario 1, like amped up to fucking ridiculous. There's nothing changed. There's nothing really added to it. Enemies and level design wise. Not like how Super Mario 3 took the formula and of Super Mario 1 and cranked the dial up to 11. No, this is just like, it's one of those like fucking ROM hack type games, those like fan made games where they make the difficulty level fucking obnoxious. yeah, I don't like it at all. But if you do want to play it, I would say the best way to play it is to get on the Super Nintendo, get Super Mario All Stars. Which, by the way, if you have a Super Nintendo, it's worth getting Super Mario All Stars anyways, because it's really cool to play the four, I guess, games. Super Mario 1, 2, and 3, plus that Lost Levels, the Japanese 2. Oh, sorry, my phone going off. The Japanese 2. It's fun to play them in this updated 16-bit graphics. So it's definitely one of the things I would say get on the Super Nintendo anyways. But Super Mario 2, it doesn't have a physical American release. You can only get the original version of it on a Famicom, which is the Japanese version of the NES. Or I think you can get it as like a virtual arcade, like digital download on like the Wii and Wii U and shit. Which again, I don't really do the digital download shit that much. So, but if you do, I guess it's worth picking up if you absolutely want to play it. But getting sidetracked. Point of it is Super Mario Deluxe. Not worth playing. But I got another game this week, and I just got it yesterday. Been playing the shit out of it last night. Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES. Now, a lot of you have probably seen the Angry Video Game review of this. And he, of course, shit on it, because that's what he does. But I genuinely liked it. I really did. The soundtrack for it's amazing. It's fantastic. The gameplay's pretty fun. It's a little slippery, almost, like your character. And it takes some getting used to, but I basically got used to it and had a good time with it. You play as this nondescript teenage boy, I guess, and you're fighting your way down Elm Street when there's like, the enemies suck. They really do. Most of them. It's basically like snakes and spiders and shit like that. It's very generic Halloween-esque characters. But as you go through, you eventually fall asleep and you're in the dream world. And the dream world, it's almost like the day and night transition in Castlevania 2. It's basically just the enemies are tougher, but you can switch over to like your Dream Warrior version, where you like can throw javelins at them and shit. And I actually enjoyed that more. But you gotta like collect all Freddy's bones and destroy him in order to kill him. Every once in a while you get attacked by a version of Freddy. I played it for about 3 hours last night. There's a lot of wandering around because you don't know what house you're supposed to go into next, and that's kind of annoying. But again, I thought it was a lot of fun for an NES game. I'm a big Freddy Krueger fan, so I wanted to get it for that. But I had a lot of fun with it last night. I would say it's probably the best LGN game I ever played on the NES, because it's actually fun, and most of them are garbage. But I would say it's definitely worth checking out. I had a really good time with it. Angry Video Game Nerds review notwithstanding, I think it's a pretty solid NES title. So my recommendation of the week, my positive note to end this podcast on, is Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES. Pretty damn good. Alright folks, that's my time this week. That's about all I got. Thank you as always for listening. I am the Bechtloff, and I'm signing out.